Is there a universal meaning to life? A counter-proposition to Dr. Stephen Hawking's assertion that there isn't and that there can't be. Dr. Hawking's presentation proposes considerations that lead to his conclusion that all concepts, and therefore the concept of reality, and extending from it the concept of meaningfulness, are inescapably personal mental models generated by each individual and cannot be extrinsic universal factors or qualities. I propose here arguments that counter the background considerations to his premises and therefore challenge the validity of his conclusions. For reference of this rebuttal, I will include two conclusive excerpt segments of Dr. Hawking's presentation with regards to the meaning of life. It is important to clarify that using only portions of his presentation can lead to misrepresenting his arguments. His statements could be taken out of context. I aim to avoid this. Therefore, I strongly recommend viewing his complete presentation. My attempt is to provide a fair rebuttal to his conclusions and not misrepresent them. His motives, process, capacity, and integrity are not in question.
It may seem crazy to doubt that our concept of reality is true. But I think to find the meaning of life, we must answer the question, is there an independent reality or not? Meaning can only ever exist within the confines of the human mind. And in this way, the meaning of life is not somewhere out there, but right between our ears. In many ways, this makes us the lords of creation.
His first proposition. To find the meaning of life, we must answer the question, is there an independent reality or not? His conclusion. Meaning can only ever exist within the confines of the human mind, and in this way, the meaning of life is not somewhere out there, but right between our ears. In many ways, this makes us the lords of creation. The substance of the rebuttal. His first challenge. Is there a meaning to life that exists outside the confines of the human mind, extending from an independent reality? The short answer is yes. Following are evident, observable, or testable propositions that comprise my rebuttal. To find the meaning of life, we must answer the question, is there an independent reality or not? Reality is both external and internal. External as an independent, environmental, sensory, and rational source, and internal as a dependent, cognitive construct or mental model. Is there an independent reality or not? Reality is both external and internal. The material universe is a general aggregate construct of variable functional components. Qualitative and distinct function implies an effective active-reactive potential quality to each of these components. The effective active-reactive quality of these components extends further, leading to the complementary active quality of stimulation and its reciprocal reactive sensing capacity. Extending from the material universe, the stimulant activates the sensor, and the sensor generates information which, through a process of complex reactive functional aggregation, leads eventually to the cognitive faculty and to the interpretative formation of our internal construct. From sense stimulus to rational interpretational integration. Conclusion. General material systems lead to variable complex aggregation, where one of the variables results in the biological stimulant sensor system, which specifically generates information. These systems are both independent from our own but are also intrinsic to our functions. Stimulants represent the extrinsic portion of the informational process. That would be external reality, where processing and aggregation of information towards a mental construct represent effectively the intrinsic informational process, and that would be internal reality. This is an observable, testable, and measurable phenomenon. Is there meaning out there or not? Meaning can only ever exist within the confines of the human mind, and in this way, the meaning of life is not somewhere out there, but right between our ears. Observably, informational processes lead to aggregation, coordination, and processing of elements of information progressively through the determination of variable alternatives, productively towards a broader, greater, more complex and beneficial end product for the system or entity that generates such. That's true whether this is a process or a material substance. Meaning is the attribute of a process that leads productively towards a beneficial end result, remote from the initial process and as a matter of consequence. This is progressive, sequential, functional, informational cause and effect. The latter fulfills the definition as a systematic process of the quality of procedural meaningfulness, which is here submitted to occur independently of our cognitive processes as observed externally in biological systems. Inasmuch as there is an internal reality and an internal meaning, there is also an external reality, which is the source or origin, and an external purposeful process or meaning, which extends onto our own. The external components are independent of our personal cognitive constructs. These are premises based on the observable phenomenological material systems of generation and processing of information, stimulant, sensor information systems. The processing of such and the consequential determination towards a beneficial product is observed in systems and organisms independent of our own cognitive constructs and convey the procedural quality of meaning or purpose to these complexly coordinated phenomena. Therefore, there is indeed an independent reality and extending from it an observable, extrinsic meaningful process not determined by our own minds. To conclude, one can therefore surmise that indeed there is an external reality independent of our own and that meaningfulness is not between our ears but out there as a universal mechanism of systematic consequence.